Hello, this is Kris Nelson from evolveconsciousness.org. I'll be reading an article published on the 15th of October 2014. So this is the day after I published the Falsity and Evil Part 2, Addendum on Neutrality. And this article is called Good and Evil in Being. So the Falsity and Evil Addendum, and Good and Evil in Being, I had worked on these three simultaneously, I think, and then published them 3 days apart, because it was all part of one conceptual development that I had to split apart into different sections so that they weren't too big. So, to begin, truth levels good and evil in being. Truth level 1 is that which is. Whatever exists in our reality is a being in our reality and is a part of the truth of our reality. Truth level 2 is the ultimate force of truth, love, good, right, morality, etc., which is as well, but exists beyond the limitations of the material physical reality and can be referred to as the transcendental being, or transcendental aspects of being. And when we're referring to being in reality is in the metaphysical Aristotelian sense that anything that exists is a being. A rock is a being in reality. We're not talking about human being as a manifestation of the transcendental being as our being. We're not talking about that type of being, which is what a true human being is in its true human nature, and not as a human condition, an artificially created false self. So we're just talking about being as anything in reality, whatever exists. That's truth. And that's what reality is truth. I went into this into more depth in a previous audio. Apologies if I can't remember. I've been doing too many audios in the past few days, so listen to my other audios and you'll get more in-depth information on truth level 1 and truth level 2 and how reality and what exists actually represents truth. Truth level 1 and level 2 is seen through the manifestation of physical material being existence. I should say are seen through the manifestation of physical material being in existence. So we can detect the obviousness of what exists by ostensibly pointing to it, and that's truth level 1. And level 2 has to be perceived metaphysically as what's behind the things that exist in truth level 1. Truth level 1 is matter and form to create what exists in reality, an actual substance in matter that may end up expressing aspects of good or evil. Matter itself can be in anything. It is not a particular thing itself. There is no thing that is just matter. Matter is an aspect of things, a class to which things belong to. A form is required to shape the elements and components of matter in order to arrange and coordinate them in relation to each other. Truth level 2 are the forms that make it possible for the thing to exist in reality. So this is going according to metaphysical conceptual framework. If you want more understanding on matter and form, please take a look at my audio-video presentation entitled Metaphysics, Language and Reality, the Fundamentals of the Trivium Method. Alright, to continue, if people are familiar with Rupert Sheldrake, truth level 2 is likened to the morphogenetic field upon which individual substances use as blueprints and create in the image of. The transcendental being, truth level 2, is the source template for the formation of various forms of matter that exist in our reality, truth level 1, such as human animals, rocks, etc. The individual this horse or this human is part of the universal forms of horse or human, to which matter conforms its elements and components into coordination to create that shape. And just to make a note on metaphysics, the primary substance is the particular substance of ostensible things that exist in reality, and the secondary substance would be the contained within the species, which has the form and the individual universal, which is the lowest level universal that is used as the template to construct the particularized individual that we can see and touch, and it exists in our reality here, in the physical reality. The force of evil manifests through the lack of the force of good. The force of good is what is, in the highest respect, that is to say, God, Source, One, All. And I have a link to my dualistic conceptual framework to understand how the force of evil is the lack of the force of good. So you'd have X as good, truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law, and then you'd have minus X, or a lack of X, in varying degrees to the other polarized extreme of absolute minus X in comparison to absolute X. To continue, total evil cannot be manifest into any being in our reality, for if it would consume all of the being, there would be no good remaining in that thing being, and no essence of isness remaining means no isness and no existence. So there's no such thing as pure evil manifesting in reality. If you would, the aspects of being through which existence is created through identity would cease to be, because all it would be pure evil, and it wouldn't have any aspect of the thing that is in existence, and hence it would not be. If you don't have any aspect of isness, then your is not is what your is notness, then you're not in existence. So there is no such thing as pure evil within our reality. It's not possible to manifest. There would be no being remaining in that alleged thing. Since good, truth, and right is, and is of itself inherent in all of creation, in all of being, in all of things, it is part of being in existence through that one force of good. Conceptually, if something is all evil, it has no good left at all, and therefore it has no being, and isn't even capable of existing at all in our physical reality. Pure evil cannot manifest in our reality. For pure evil to manifest in a thing completely, it would end that thing. It would not have any form of being left. It would not be able to exist, as it would be seeking destruction at all times, and would need to exist elsewhere, not this reality existence, and would cease to be a thing here. So even if you think of entropy and stagnation, although they're not perfectly analogous to evil and falsity and immorality, in entropy and stagnation, where you have absolute zero, everything is frozen and non-moving. And if you could have an entropy and a state of no history, if you remove time and all you have is 3D space, you don't have time, nothing's changing, there's no movement, everything is frozen, hence the end of history. There's no more time. You could do this also in a physical sense, where time is progressing, but everyone stays at the same level. There's no evolution in consciousness, and things just stagnate, and it'll eventually lead to entropy. But in entropy and stagnation and everything being frozen, this is the implicate order from which the explicate order is made. An explicate order is our reality, the 4 dimensions, and the implicate order can be looked at as the underlying 7 dimensions, which can also correlate to the 7 Hermetic laws and other 7 things. But the 7 dimensions and the 4 dimensions above, of 3 space-time and 1 of 3 of space and 1 of time. That's why we live in 4D. We don't live in 3D. 3D, without time, there's no movement, there's no nothing, there's no life, it's death. Hence, in entropy and stagnation, when there's nothing moving, everything's all evenly dispersed, that's what the implicate order is a symmetry order, versus explicate order is a grouping order. So everything in existence is based on groupings of some kind. You have the subatomic particles, and then the atomic level, and then the molecules. Everything is grouping and creating higher order complexity, and this creates more diversity, more multiplicity, and more variability within the universe, reality, and existence. Alright, I'm going to keep reading. I don't remember where I was going with that, but I think I've spoken what I had to say, hopefully. To continue, for pure evil to manifest in a thing complete. Oh, I already read that. Okay, next section. Evil in being, things. To do harm to a causal agent of free will, willfully or not, is still harm, A-1. Animals may be amoral in their consciousness, but higher level consciousness can recognize the difference between right and wrong, between what is moral and immoral action. Humans have this capacity, while other animals have it in diminishing capacities. What I mean is humans have higher order capacity and animals have lower order capacities. They still have an ability to recognize some differences, but it's mostly related to their own personal harm. So they can recognize when they're harmed and they react. And some of them can recognize harm, or they can feel for others. Maybe they can't recognize it as harm, but they can empathize with another. There's videos of ducks feeding fish and a drowning fish trying to be saved by a dog who's splashing water on it. Other than human animals, there are other animals that are capable of recognizing harm through feeling through themselves. They can, I guess, sort of empathize and put themselves in another's shoe and understand that they are suffering as well. So it's not morals, it's not an understanding of morality, and not an objective understanding of right and wrong. But they have an intuitive capacity because they do have a consciousness. They are animals. They are mobile, they're interactive, and they are capable of understanding certain aspects of reality, although not in as higher degrees as we are capable of. But they can still understand things, and it's demonstrable. All you have to do is look in reality. There's many people who want to deny things in reality, and oh, well, plants are just like animals. Oh yeah, plants are just like humans too, right? Because we're not animals now. People don't know how to distinguish reality properly. For example, a rock exists. It is. Hence a rock is part of being in existence. The rock is good by default. The rock cannot manifest evil in any respect. It is not a causal agent. If a causal agent throws the rock at someone's head and murders them, the rock became a tool of unnecessary and undue harm, evil, from the causal agent. I just want to mention that any animal is a causal agent because any animal has interactivity and mobility. Plants are not causal agents. Plants do not have consciousness expressions. Plants do not have mobility. Plants do not feel. Plants do not express emotions. They do not cry. Get over it. So a causal agent is any, I don't know, you could take a chimpanzee throwing a rock or using something and murdering another. So any causal agent is capable of manifesting force on something else. A rock is passive, it's not a causal agent. The rock was a tool for the causal agent. The rock itself was good, but the causal agent of free will, choosing evil willfully, or even if they're ignorant of what evil is and they do it anyways, it's still an evil act, it's still an immoral act. But since they are an amoral, lower consciousness animal, they're not capable of understanding morality to the degree we are. So they may not even recognize it as a wrong. Who knows? There's some animals who do things and they're trying to save other animals, and a dog gets run over and his companion's there trying to revive him. Clearly there's a recognition of the other and trying to do something to change the situation, just like feeding fish or trying to save a drowning fish that a dog's splashing water on. And maybe some other ones, they get conditioned or whatever and they do a wrong thing and they do immorality, or it's part of their nature in some respect, like lions or whatever. But they are amoral. They do not understand morality. So the rock itself was good, but the causal agent of free will, choosing evil willfully, turned the good by default rock into an instrument of effective evil. The causal agent imbued into the effect it created, and since the rock was part of that effect, it had evil imposed onto its being. If someone is harmed by a tool, they could take out their reciprocity and redress of a wrong on the rock, but the rock is not the cause. It had no power to change. It was only an instrument of the evil. It was not the evil itself. The evil was generated from within the causal agent free will, being. The rock became an effect of evil from the causal agent who created the evil into existence where it was not before. So the evil wasn't existing before. The evil is only manifested through causal agents. That's the only way evil manifests. It wasn't there before, and then someone created it. Who created it? Only causal agents can create evil. Of the things in physical existence, apart from the force and laws, animals have the strongest causal agent power, with humans having the most power to cause changes. Laws are causal forces, and they can impose things on beings as well. Higher order beings have different laws, higher order laws, that apply to them beyond the base biological laws of survival that other animals are programmed with and few escape from. Blind correspondence with the rest of the animal kingdom can get us into false beliefs. We are higher order consciousness beings that with higher order laws that go along with this increase in consciousness power. The responsibility of those laws comes with the power increase in consciousness. So all those paleo retards and all the carnists, they're all Satanists because they're all obsessed with mimicking animals and mimicking ancestors in the past, which were all lower consciousness ancestors, and they're all lower consciousness amoral animals. So yeah, let's imitate amorality and let's do evil without caring that we're doing evil. Yeah, let's imitate cavemen who didn't have a proper understanding of morality. Let's live like cavemen. Yes, you're so intelligent. I can tell that you care about truth and morality, that you care about evolving your consciousness. Right. No, actually you don't. Sorry. You don't care about truth and morality. You don't care about evolving consciousness. And you're very content being a moron. Believing whatever you want to believe as a Satanist. Not as an official Satanist, but we're all Satanists, as I've talked about on other podcasts. As long as you're focused on my survival, my freedom, and my truth, you are embodying aspects of the ideology of Satanism. Hence, you are embodying aspects of evil, of immorality. Simply by doing such, it forces you to progress in the pathway of evil, because you don't understand who you truly are, the true self, as aspects of truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law. To continue, as causal agents that require modes of survival, animals are conditioned with biological laws and are not capable of always living moral lives, nor do they understand this notion of morality, because they are amoral, which is an understanding I've developed since writing this article, so that's why in this article I don't have the term amoral there. So I just added a sentence. Animals are lower order consciousness beings that live in amorality. They act for the most part according to the nature of their kind, their class, their species. This would be a natural level 1 and natural, so this would be nature level 1 and nature level 2. Would be referring to the metaphysical, this would be a nature level 1 where you go according to the base biological programming. So base nature, and I have more notes I've written on nature, but I haven't published them yet. And nature level 2 would be referring to the metaphysical realm of natural law. So even though we may have started off as amoral lower consciousness beings, as we've developed our ability to comprehend reality and develop consciousness tools, we've been able to understand more of reality, and we've been able to get closer to the natural law level 2 aspect representative of natural moral law, which is itself in truth level 2. And the nature level 1 is the basic biological programming. Those animal species that are capable of understanding morality are then more able to choose to live more morally than those who do not understand what morality is. We can never be purely moral, nor purely good, etc. The goal of perfection is infinite and never reachable, but we are always on that journey if we want to be. The capabilities of higher order consciousness permit and promote this evolution in consciousness. An animal like a cat that has identified with you may try to provide you with a dead bird or mouse for you to eat because it cares for you in its framework for living according to their imposed natural programming. Sometimes animals can break out from their behavioral programming as well and care for animals they would normally kill and eat as part of their imposed nature. Human animals have the most power in self-transformation, but a lion or other wild cat did not kill a baby prey animal and helped to raise it, going against its biological programming. And there's a video you can watch of this, where the lion, I think was a gazelle or antelope or something. It wasn't killing it, it was nurturing it. And the lion, because it had aligned itself with a higher principle, and it was going against its biological lower programming, it was, I believe it was in a way starving itself. I'm not sure if it eventually died because of its care that was developed. But see, that's the potential we have in choice, and that's why care and free will choice and consciousness and self is all related in the same thing. You can see this more in my natural law boundary conditions, as well as the subsequent spectrum of living and the subsequent the Philosopher's Stone. Those three presentations have color-coded aspects that I spent some time analyzing and confirming. The care, free will, and consciousness are green aspects. And so when certain animals, it appears that through a recognition of reality or an intuitive recognition, as I mentioned earlier, so you might not be aware of morality, but you can have an intuitive recognition of care and what is right. And that can destabilize your natural programming. So I honestly don't believe humans are natural carnivores. As I've mentioned in other work, we have the capacity to do great evil and great good, and with this capacity is what affords us the ability to murder animals and eat them. A deer cannot process animal food, I don't think. Herbivores cannot process that food. So they're more naturally inclined towards care for other beings. They don't harm them. Now, as a predator does, they can more align themselves with that higher force in an intuitive capacity, even though they're not capable of consciously processing what's going on. And this can remove them from their natural programming into the kind that they are, that operates according to the lower level nature, the physical nature, and not the higher nature. But they can still break out of that programming and it seems to go against that biological programming for a higher order purpose. So that's why I say it might be intuitive and not so much consciously processed, but I don't know. All I can see is the manifestations in front of me. So I can see that they're changing their behavior contrary to their biological programming, their normal condition. They're going to a higher nature, natural law nature, whether they're aware of it or not. If they didn't care for that, if they didn't have that recognition, intuitively or not, or otherwise, then they would have just killed that other animal and eaten them. Because if you don't care, then you don't care, you'll just kill it. Well, if they're hungry. That's the other thing, they don't kill just for killing, they kill for hunger. To eat and survive. Okay, to continue, there is nature programming and there is nurture of environmental programming as well. It can be likened to genetics and epigenetics. The first imposition is from nature as genetics, The second imposition is from nature as the environment, acting as the influencing and imposing factors that shape us after the first impositions. Human animals, despite currently living in many falsities and wrong ways in the false self, still mostly try to do what they think is, quote, good, whether true or not. For the most part, people do that. Hitler did what he thought was right and good, you could say. Or he was consciously aware of how wrong it was and did it anyways because he enjoyed creating harm for others, like a psychopath. I don't know. I'm just making an argument that for the most part, we do things because we think it's the right thing to do. And then those right things to do that we make ourselves believe are right can cascade into more wrongs since we're not correcting them, and then we have ego. And anyways, I'm not apologizing for Hitler, but everyone that does things, there's very few people who are out there and they're doing wrong things with the motivation of just doing wrong things. They usually do the wrong and the false things because they're trying to do good, because they're so fooled and in falsity that they think that that's good. So that's what I'm saying about, so I said most people try to do what is good, whether true or not, and then I mentioned Hitler did what he thought was right and good, you could say. Or he was consciously aware. I don't know, I wasn't in his mind. I'm just giving an example of how you can look at everyone who does bad and evil is so screwed up and demented in their understanding of reality that they think evil is good and good is evil, which is what I've talked about already, from knowledge, memories, and evil. You know, you're conditioned into accepting falsity as truth, and you reject truth as falsity, and then you believe good is evil and evil is good. So it's possible that many of the evil people were doing evil, absolutely, but maybe they had different motivations, and it wasn't that they were pure evil, as I've mentioned, is an impossibility. So it's not that they're pure evil, it's pretty much mostly that people think they're doing good. Most places. And Mark Passio wants to say that, oh, the cops and military, they enjoy doing harm. I'm sure some of them do. But there are some people who go into it because they think they are doing good. They want to do good. They want to join something greater than themselves. They want to give of themselves to something they perceive in their minds is good. So police join, military join. People join these things for that reason. The people who are psychopaths who actually join to hurt people, I think those are far fewer in number than people who actually think that they're doing good, that this endeavor is necessary to fight evil and kill the bad guys, you know? It's all a manipulation of understanding what is good and what is evil, of what is right and what is wrong, what is true and what is false, in order to get you to do those things. It's all a psychological manipulation, reality manipulation. So who's to say that other people, other world leaders who are responsible for what other lower people did, who followed orders, they might have had an original conception that was completely polluted, but they thought it was good, and then it kept cascading from that poisoned negative knowledge that eventually led to even more negative and more immorality and more evil, but they thought, you know, it wasn't that bad, or that it was necessary, that it was a necessary evil, because they thought that this was what was required to create the good. So you can say some people are psychopaths and some people enjoy hurting others and they get a thrill out of it, but not everyone, and I would certainly say not most people. But that's just my opinion. To continue, everyone does this for the most part in their lives, even when they are doing wrong. The amount of people that knowingly and willingly do evil is relatively small, while most people avoid introspection, reflection, contemplation about their behavior and truth to find out the wrongs they are doing. So yeah, there's some people who willfully do wrong, But then there's some people who are ignorant and don't face themselves and do wrong without knowing they're wrong. And well, there was going to be a third example, but I forget. To continue, most people simply do not want to face the truth about their actions that would require them to change, because change requires effort and work, and they do not want to take up that responsibility to end micro-evil personally in themselves first, and then help end macro-evil in the aggregate as well. That is a lot of work. Enjoying life is much more preferable going along, riding the wave, passion fulfillment, etc. Imagine if one generation stopped their personal pleasure pursuits and focused on truth discovery and eliminating evil from the collective hearts and minds of people. Imagine the difference that would make. Get away from your personal crap life, not that it's crap, but personal crap in your life, and seek out truth and morality, the universal transcendental aspects of our being that we can become and embody and manifest into reality. But back to animals that seek to help others, protect others, even other species against the base animal programming according to their survival nature. Higher consciousness moral recognition sees the difference from an immoral action to an abdication of that immoral action, despite the lower animal consciousnesses not understanding this conceptually. The animal goes from lower immoral actions it is programmed with to choosing another action that is more in line with morality, with good, with right. We can see that a base programming imposition to promote survival of the living being in amoral concern and ignorance is capable of being overridden by consciousness and the free will to change. Human animals are not the only ones capable of doing so, but are the ones with the strongest capability and most frequency to demonstrate such changes. So we can see it in other animals, but it's less frequent, so it's more rare and harder to see. So if you don't see it and you have less frequency, that aspect of reality will not become apparent to you. It will not become in your conscious awareness, so people will continue to deny that animals feel, or that plants feel too, even though there's no expression of them feeling. It's just all in your mind. You want to believe that plants feel too, just like animals, just like us, so that you can do whatever you want to animals. Because, oh, plants feel and you eat plants, so therefore you can do whatever you want to animals too, because they're just like plants. People don't understand logic at all. People are retards. You know what a retard is? You're made slow. You're slow. You don't think right. You think very slowly. You're kept back from thinking. You come to a stop. You've been retarded. So in French, retard, je suis arrivé en retard. I have arrived late. It just means late. So you've been stopped. You're in retard because you didn't get there in time. You've been slowed down. You were stopped for a moment of time and then you progressed. But when you're retarded, I'm not talking in the ableism sense, in abilities and physical diminished capacities to think properly. But most people are not like that. They're just intellectually and emotionally retarded. They're slowed down in the ability to think. They can't process reality properly. Their thinking stops. So they're retarded in thinking. To continue, other animals do not display as much variation in choice as we do. This is the real evolution at work, the evolution in consciousness in what we choose to do, our actions and behavior. Other animals are more locked into their programming than human animals. We have more degrees of freedom than they do. We have more power to create. The lower the form of life, the less the consciousness is able to free itself from the impositions upon its nature. All things in existence are energy at a base level, which can be viewed as a base form of the all-pervading. I'm going to reread that. All things in existence are energy at a base level, which can be viewed as a base form of the all-pervading consciousness field. Rocks are more stuck than plants, which are more stuck than animals, which are in the whole, in the aggregate, more stuck than human animals. So we have the most free will, and as you go down, it has the least free will and the least ability to express, and the most just matter aspect to it. just physicality. The greatest degree of freedom, free will choice, is in the human animal. This is where the most power lies. This is also where the most responsibility lies, as we have the power to do great good or great evil. We can know transcendental aspects of being, and we can live up to that understanding to evolve past our lower base carnal animalistic beastly consciousness and rise to higher order consciousness and living. This is what I'm saying about we are able to eat meat and deers are not, is that since we are given the greatest capacity to live in free will choice of choosing good or evil, right or wrong, morality or falsity or immorality, or we can survive in immorality and we can survive in falsity and we can survive in evil. That's the gift that was granted to us. We have the great power. You can look at it as the image of God, the creator. Well, we are in the image of God. We are creators. We can create with our great creative abilities, our infinite potential and value. We can create towards the infinite potential of value of truth, love, good, right, morality, or we can create in the opposite direction. So when we create in the opposite direction of immorality, wrong, and evil, well, we're still able to survive because we can still murder animals and live as a low-base, carnal, animalistic, beastly consciousness and, survive in any means possible. So we have the capacity to survive in evil or in good. And it's possible. I don't know enough. I could speculate many things, but I'm not going to waste my time because it would go on another tangent. That doesn't really matter. Next. Morality is key to evolution. Is spirituality seeing spirits? If so, then I'm not spiritual. Is that all it takes to be, quote, spiritual? If, quote, spirituality has nothing to do with morality, then I have absolutely no desire for and see no value in, quote, spirituality, and do not care to be, quote, spiritual in any way. Seeing other spirits or dimensions is of little concern to me. Have fun with your, quote, visions, cul-de-sac forms of, quote, meditation, channeling, etc., if that is what you consider a valuable use of your time in the journey towards truth, morality, to end evil. True spirituality is based in morality. True unity is based in morality. True freedom is based in morality. When we look at ourselves, other animals, other things, we can see deeper into good and evil manifested according to survival reciprocity with amoral concern in the causal agents as they act on base animal programming to survive. In nature, and especially the lower animal kingdoms like insects, there is primarily a selfish concern without consideration for the harm being done to others. Nature as the natural environment does not care at all. It is impersonal. There are basic laws of programming according to each kind, class, and species for its basic survival. And I just added, some operate in a hive mind queen authority to coordinate survival, such as ants or bees. Animals have basic reciprocity in them, cause and effect, action, reaction, etc. This is a component to morality, but not all of it. So they do not have the full moral compass in them. Animals are primarily based on survival and will act according to their kind, class, species, etc. All animals seek to not be killed by predators. Animals will defend themselves and those they care for, that they identify with, if they are able to. Human animals are capable of more abstract identification beyond the immediate surroundings that we are attached to, such as beyond those people close to us in our personal lives, and identifying with people everywhere and even other species. The harm done to other beings is more recognizable by us. We can reduce the harm we do that we were otherwise not fully aware of, as we have much cultural, traditional, and customary programming into lower base consciousness modalities of living in carnal, fleshly, animalistic, survival, predatory, dominator mindsets. Wow, that was a mouthful. And that's essentially Satanism. It's all about your survival. Animals seek to protect themselves and those they identify with from harm. The greater your care, agape, the more you wish to reduce the harm done to other beings, as though they were your spouse, offspring, to love thy neighbor, etc. So you'll defend them as you defend yourself, pretty much. Or in at least a relative degree of similarity, you'll stand up for truth and morality and help to defend others. We can see this expression of good and evil at work, but in other beings according to their nature. That is to say, natural, base survival programming. They do not see their behavior objectively in relation to other beings due to their limited consciousness capabilities, such as the ability to identify with others, empathize, etc. Other animals are imposed with certain natures within a system of reciprocal living, whereby they happen to be predators towards some animals, yet also prey for others. Animals want to be free from harm, but they generally don't care much about harming others they don't identify with. We human animals can go beyond those limitations and identify beyond the local surroundings of our family, clan, tribe into the abstract truth of everything and see the commonality of all human animals and all animals in general. The matter of physical being is good by default, ordered into a structural component for existence. The behavioral attributes correlate with biological energy grouping, coordination, formation, etc. The biological constructs have degrees of difference and similarity. Each specific correlation and coordination of component elements produces a specific kind, class, or species with its own biological, behavioral, basic programming attributes for survival. This is part of its nature as a biological unit with imposition of programming for its survival. And this could come from the morphogenetic field. Who knows? I don't know where it comes. Maybe it comes from your DNA. I don't know. Maybe the DNA is written by the morphogenetic field. I don't know. There's too many open variables that we don't have enough understanding on. So this whole article is largely speculative because I'm trying to understand things in relation to what I currently understand. So that's why I'm understanding animals as lower and more programmed, and some of them can break out of the programming and do what we do, which is more free will of choosing a certain polarity versus what we're currently choosing to live by. And as I've shown, other animals can do this, just not to the degree and frequency that we do. An interesting thing to contemplate is, if we think of matter as a class of being, as basically good itself, but specific elements within that class or their combination can be harmful, then we can also think of the formation and construction of specific components as somehow requiring the addition of evil or reduction of goodness in order to survive in an amoral, selfish, survivalist modality of existence without purpose, other than to survive and not be harmed, to maintain self-preservation, i.e. Satanism. It only applies to humans, the Satanism, but this is the lower, base, programmed, amoral, selfish, survivalist modality that we have to survive. So you want to live as an animal? Okay, then live as an animal. Now we're going to evolve, and then eventually, if you want to keep living as an animal, you can evolve with us, or, well, if you're going to try to harm us, we're going to have to put you down, and that's all it comes down to in the end. Evolve, or truth or consequence, be right or go wrong. At a certain point, there will be a cutoff, and it'll be too late. Now, probably not in my lifetime, I don't think. We have probably many centuries and thousands of years to go. Anyways, at the current rate, oh boy, it doesn't look good. I laugh. It's like I read in one of my recent audios. I have a quote from The Watchman, the comedian, and he figures out the truth of the noble lie of evil perpetuating itself as good, and all the deception, and it's all a fucking joke. It's all a sham. So it's sad. It's sad where we are, but it's all a joke. You know, when you see the appearances people believe in and the actual substance of what they actually do, and how they're not aligning with the substance of of who they should be and ought to be in alignment with truth, love, good, right, morality, natural law. It's such a masterful manipulation and a game in a way, and it's a joke at how pathetically sad we are being tricked into this manipulation. To continue, if what is at the pure level is good, and all things that are have some aspects of good, then those things that exist with causal powers as causal agents have the capacity for evil in them in terms of survival of self above others. The most basic level of animals only has concerns for their survival. The imposition of negative modalities for survival goes against good. So maybe the goal of consciousness in biological life is to progress towards a life form capable of overcoming the harmful, survivalist, predatory, selfish lack of care modality of living. Maybe that's the purpose, and not biological, it should be organic, so I'm going to change that, because in etymology, as I've demonstrated in the recent etymological breakdown on living and action and all that stuff, organic has to do with organs, which animals have. Plants don't have organs. Plants are not organic. Plants are biological. Animals are biological. There's biological life and then there's organic life, so there's a difference. So that's why I'm changing this to organic life. So consciousness in organic life, because only organic life has physical expressions of consciousness as derived through etymological meaning. Plants do not have consciousness, as the word means. So organic life with consciousness could be, the purpose is to evolve and then actualize themselves through more free will to bring in, to remove themselves from the lower, harmful, survivalist, predatory, selfish, and lack of care modality of living. To continue, other animals are herbivores or folivores and have been venerated in biblical or spiritual imagery for their non-carnist characteristics and peaceful existence of not harming other creatures. So in a quote spiritual, i.e. moral, yes, spiritual is completely related to morality. So in a spiritual imagery, yeah, they use animals that don't create harm to other animals. They use peaceful animals. They don't use carnist, predatory, survivalist, bullshit, low consciousness beings. Even though that's what they exist and they do. Well, we don't have to. Spirituality is foundationally tied to morality, ahimsa, non-violence, do no harm, doing the least harm we can, lessening our wrongs. That's how I understand spirituality. So I don't care any of the other definitions and explanations of astral projection and remote viewing and channeling and seeing other entities and talking to other entities and all this other crap. I don't give two shakes of a lamb's tail. I don't care at all. Continuing, next section, life and evil. There is a popular justification some people use for their behaviors. Life consumes life consumes life. I've had this used on me several times by idiotic carnists. It is especially popular among carnists. This saying is the standard order of lower, lesser evolved life, where life consumes life. It just goes on in a survivalist mindset. Sure. When you evolve to a certain point, the shift from amoral, ignorant living in immorality to living in morality takes place through evolution in consciousness and conscious awareness of greater transcendental aspects of being. We can imitate other animal life and other energy existence in the universe and keep the status quo of base evolutionary survival. That is a choice we have. Or we can choose to go beyond that, to evolve beyond the base, lower, carnal, fleshly survival, predator, dominator mindset towards true moral living that is capable of being achieved with our creative technological capabilities. To conceive of evolution as progressing the same predator-dominator, life eats life, survivalist, immoral actions is idiocy, especially when we are not amoral, lower thought beings. We have higher capacities, and we are not living up to the power and responsibility we have been granted. We can eat only plant life to live. We do not need to be predatory carnists eating from our own animal kingdom. We can evolve beyond the limitations of the detached dog-eat-dog natural lower world of animal life. Asserting life eats life is incorrect as a universal truth. To imply this axiom would assert its accuracy at all levels of what we consider life, which are biological life forms. Animals eat plants, some animals eat other plants. Plants get minerals from the ground and sunlight and water and turn that into the first form of basic macro life for other animal life to eat and live. Dead biological life goes into the ground after it decays, but the plants do not directly consume a living being for survival. So no, life consumes life consumes life, life eats life eats life is bullshit. So plants consume minerals that can happen to be deposited by animal life or other plant life. Plants have a primary purpose of establishing a habitable domain for animal life to succeed afterwards. There are variations in the development of different types of plants, with many that are poisonous and deadly. Plants don't eat life, they eat sunlight, water, and minerals to create their life form in matter. Animals eat plants and other animals to gain the nutrients to live. Most lower or moral Most lower animal life lacks the cognitive capacities and consciousness to act in more expansively caring and moral ways, and so live in an amoral bubble of self-preserving survival. Higher animal life, like some mammals, can express affection and care for other animals, not only their own kind. Humans appear to be endowed the greatest power and capacity for care and goodness to other beings, which is to reduce harm, as well as great power for hate and evil actions towards other beings. So we can do it either way. We can create evil or we can create good. We have a lot of power. The animal kingdom to which we belong as animal beings is amoral as a whole, having little to no comprehension or consideration for moral behavior. Evolution, real evolution, in consciousness expressing itself in a being, brings one closer to morality through the development of thought and emotion, quote, mind and heart. This is part of what it means to evolve consciousness. Mammals have more of an emotionally expressive capacity from the neocortical development that other animals lack. Humans have the most expressive capacities of thought and emotion, capable of merging them into motivational directions to act and create in the world, and then able to understand the feedback more deeply than other animals of lower capabilities and consciousness. We have greater capability to diverge from a primal animal living and go beyond this purposeless paradigm of life eats life, dog eats dog, survival of the fittest, supremacist ideology, which is what is behind the social Darwinian and eugenics ideology of population control. And it's also pretty much what everyone accepts in the world today. Life eats dog, life eats life, dog eats dog. Even people like Bernard Guenther, they talk about truth and some aspects of morality, and they expose the New Age movement. Well, clearly the dumbass doesn't care enough about truth and morality, because he's a dumbass who uses these arguments. And he needs to go eat bacon because when I'm making exposing his bullshit, and he tells me, he's got to go eat bacon to get smarter. Just like Jan Irvin, another idiot, says. It's all an obsession over brain. You need the fats and the cholesterol in your brain or else you're going to turn stupid, and it's all an obsession over being intelligent because they're insecure. And then Bernard Guenther posted a stupid song, Tool, life consumes life consumes life. Wow, you're intelligent, dude. Clearly you know some aspects of reality, and you know some things that are accurate, but you haven't gone far enough in truth and morality because you don't care about truth and morality enough. So these are just two main You know, there's two popular people that I'm exposing. And yeah, popular people do need to be exposed. Everyone needs to be exposed. I have a note on this. Me, myself, anything wrong that I say, please expose it, because I'm looking to be right. Anything I have wrong, I do not want to hold on to it. So if you are going to criticize me, please make it meaningful and logical. Don't criticize me about bullshit and you're going to tell me how I don't care. I don't have universal care, or whatever. Your conception is way different than mine. So if you're going to criticize something, do it logically. Because I don't want to have anything wrong. So if you can prove that something is wrong, please do it. And I will gladly do it to anyone else. So Bernard Gwenther, Jan Irvin, yeah, you guys are fools. You're only limited in your perception, and all you see is what you want to see related to your own my truth, my freedom, and my survival, because you are essentially still very deeply into Satanism. Aspects of Satanism. To continue, we have great power to influence and be influenced compared to other animals, which is why we diverge much further in relative immorality of actions. Our creative power can have us create spells on the mind and trap people in illusions and delusions of false ways of living. Other animals don't have this capacity. Instead of rising beyond the immorality of amoral animal living, we are kept in a drugged-up fantasy living that has us perpetuating lower thought and emotive modalities of being and living. If all you want to do is enjoy life, have fun, etc., then you will be living the life of a basic carnal lustful animal, which is the lower order mind of man that keeps him trapped in the survivalist, predatory, dominator-based consciousness. So that's what most people do. That's what the New Ager I used to live with. He thought he was so freaking spiritual and so evolved. Mr. I'm a god and I communicate with nature and nature teaches me and God teaches me. No, you were focused on enjoying life because you were in lower order modalities of thought in the feel-good pleasure trap, not engaging in higher order neocortical functioning and discovery of conscious awareness of reality to greater depths. So you're trapped in the survivalist predatory dominator-based consciousness of, oh well, I don't care about the animals, I'm still gonna eat them. There is no morality, there is no truth, blah blah blah. To continue, if you want to be a simple animal in an attempt at amoral living, when you ignore the capacity to learn the knowledge of good and evil, of right and wrong, of truth and falsity, then enjoy living like the animal you most likely treat, or actually mistreat, as you will continue to create your own road to enslavement. Ending evil involves ending slavery everywhere for all animals, to remove the predatory dominator mind virus from being embodied and created into being, from creating evil through slavery at all. To escape the lower beastly, carnal, fleshly, predatory dominator consciousness, you need to want to evolve and go beyond this immoral depravity. Here I have a quote from vegetarian. Well, it's a Bible symbolism relating to the way and the path in vegetarian, vegan living. There's a lot of religious bias and dogma in like the guy has 6 sites and he puts the information across 6 sites and there's a lot of repetition, so it was annoying to go through. It was interesting information, but run-ons and some useless stuff, but interesting article. You can check it out. I just have a quote here, just one little part. Natural man often has great problems when he attempts to embrace such a manner of life. He reasons, the animals were put here for me to eat. The problem is that because he is ruled over by the beasts of his lower animal nature, i.e. carnivores, he craves the blood, flesh, and fat of slain beasts. In Scripture, the good animals are always portrayed as vegetarians that inflict no harm upon any other creature, i.e. the lamb. And who was the lamb? Jesus, the Lamb of God. Do you think they They chose a lion for Jesus? No. You think they chose a wolf? How about a hyena? A bear? No, they didn't, did they? They chose a lamb. And there's a reason. Because different animals, and see, we can look and ostensibly recognize in reality that certain animals don't create harm towards other animals. And that would be a symbolic representation of an ideal of good, of doing no harm, which is what Jesus was. Representative of the way and path to do no harm. Do not do evil, do not do wrongs. So the good animals, always portrayed as vegetarians, do not inflict harm, such as the lamb. And if we are to make any progress in following the way, we must convert the lower nature within us from a beast to a subdued companion that supports our quest of higher consciousness. We cannot even begin to accomplish this transformation while our physical bodies are the tombs of dead animals. Why is this truth not more clear in our Bibles today? It is nearly impossible for carnal, sensually driven men not to eat the flesh of slain beasts. So you wonder why there's this pleasure trap? I wonder why people are carnists? Because they're focused on pleasure of the palatial aesthetics. The palate? Palatial aesthetics. You want the good for your palate. Whatever tastes good. Is it morally good? Who cares? It tastes good. I want it. And when you're in that lower base consciousness of striving after animalistic pleasures and just living off of base pleasures in life, because you're trying to enjoy life and be happy and feel good all the time, well, then you're gonna automatically go into the carnal, sensually driven to eat the flesh of slain beasts. You're sensually driven. You're driven by your senses, your taste buds. There's aesthetics in everything. In the five senses, there's palatial aesthetics, there's olfactory aesthetics, there's visual aesthetics, and there's auditory aesthetics. And I guess the basic touch one would just be sensory aesthetics, or I don't know how to... But I have an article on that pleasure trap, and those aesthetics are all at the bottom, the last part, I think. So, yeah. It's a good site for that quote. A lot of good, useful Bible symbolism to understand what it means to evolve consciousness and how important cleansing the body is to evolve consciousness, which is just a fact. Garbage in, garbage out. You want to poison your body? Well, the poison that you put into your body is going to affect your mind and your ability to think and therefore evolve consciousness, which is why I have an article called Cleansing the Body to Evolve Consciousness. To continue, what happens when we live in the beastly, animistic nature instead of evolving to the higher consciousness? We get stuck in perversions of the false conceptions and go to the extreme in them. So we're living in the low consciousness, and then we get stuck in the perversions of the low consciousness, and then we go to the extremes of those low consciousness. So more animals, more sex, more perversions, more debauchery. There's more and more and more pleasure gratification, because that's what your focus is. This is the drug use, and people get hooked into drugs and bad drugs, and it's just a pleasure trap focus. Because in some way they're subconsciously trying to remove that suffering that they're not consciously aware of in awareness, and they're going nowhere. They're lost and they don't even understand that they're lost. And that's why a lot of the time, especially for the drug users, they gotta hit rock bottom before they face the wrongs of their ways. Because as long as they got the pleasure, well, they're getting what they want. They got the pleasure and they're avoiding pain. We mass murder other animals for the nutrient-dense life force they have provided for themselves in their own survival. Rather than do the work ourselves to live longer and healthier, we steal from other animals in the usual animalistic cycle of life consumes life consumes life. rather than evolve to obtain nutrients from the plant kingdom and thereby do the least harm possible. And also I'd like to say the nutrient dense, well yeah, they've built up all their muscles, there's full of nutrients in them, but the problem is it's so dense, animal muscle, because it's very hard to break down. Protein is very hard to break down. Things that are already reconstructed from a lower aspect of plants into animals, it's harder to break down the animal nature, the animal things, and they're not even good for you anyways. And it's gross once you think about it, because it's part of being a lower animal being and not a higher evolved consciousness. And it's wrong. That's what matters the most. To continue, in the lower animal natures, animals are amoral, but we as human animals are capable of understanding the transcendental aspect of morality, goodness, and truth, yet we are engaging in immorality regardless. We have been engaging in immoral actions for thousands of years. The carnist predatory dominator mind virus towards other animal life is part of the slavery and evil. Maybe it is time we finally evolve beyond this limiting paradigm of theft that is part of the amoral lower animal kingdom lacking higher order consciousness development. Other higher order animal life forms that are not predators eat mostly plants. We can eat only plants and be the healthiest because we have the knowledge and capacity to do so and obtain all our nutrients with the right food source, plants. We don't need to steal the hard work other animals labored to produce in themselves. Murder fellow red-blooded sentient animate beings that matter morally and have every right to no harm from humans and to have the freedom of their lives as we do. Otherwise, the predator-dominator mind virus remains and progresses, multiplies like the disease it is. At some point, if we progress along this path, why not be more efficient in the scientific dictatorship? Why not just enslave people to work and feed themselves, and then just murder them for their nutrient-dense bodies? Surely that is more efficient than doing the work to herd, enslave, and take care of animals. Enslaved humans are capable of taking care of themselves. Just look at the world we live in and the self-imposed slavery we allow to continue. The movie Soylent Green dealt with this aspect of using ourselves as food. You can choose to copy, imitate, and mimic any selective behavioral trait of one or several species of animals and live like other animals in that lower beastly state of consciousness. Just like you can copy so-called cavemen and copy their behavior. That's retarded. Or you can get your head out of your ass and evolve consciousness beyond the limitations of predatory dominator survival. We can keep doing immoral things because other animals do them as well, or we can evolve beyond that because we have the consciousness that is capable of recognizing it for what it is, that it's evil, immoral. Those who want to believe in dissociated amoral living are choosing to live in the lower animal-based consciousness of predatory dominator survival while deceiving themselves into thinking they are evolved, have wider true care agape towards other fellow animals. The carnist belief is an effective trap into the participation and perpetuation of evil. Just keep doing your immoral actions, and that's just life, because life consumes life, and let's just be Satanists and not evolve consciousness to become higher order beings. This can also be an additional understanding to the attachment in the pseudo-spiritual axiom of good requiring evil, or both good and evil are required to exist, that I have previously explained in another light, in the Falsity and Evil. In most people of the natural operations of other fellow animal life, in most of the natural operations of other fellow animal life, we see the survivalist predatory behavior, and this develops into a dominator mind virus in human animals that have greater power and consciousness to manifest greater degrees of evil that go along with greater degrees of good we are also capable of creating. Taking the lower animal consciousness embodiment of the good requiring the evil is not appropriate for a higher order consciousness that may be labeled, quote, spiritual. We can rise above the survivalist predatory harm against other fellow red-blooded animals and live healthier on only the plant kingdom life. And that's the end of the article. I have some related articles there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for your time and attention. Have a nice day. Take care. Peace.